The Book of the Dead, a documentary story. Part 1. Origins and Context. Imagine, if you will, the arid silence of an ancient Egyptian tomb. The air is thick with the scent of resin and linen, the walls alive with painted gods and cryptic hieroglyphs. In the flickering torchlight, a papyrus scroll is unfurled, its surface a tapestry of spells, prayers, and vibrant illustrations. This is the Book of the Dead, a guidebook for the soul's most perilous journey, the passage from death to eternal life. But what is this enigmatic text, and how did it come to occupy such a central place in the Egyptian imagination? To answer this, we must journey back through the centuries to the dawn of Egyptian civilization and trace the evolution of their beliefs about death, the soul, and the afterlife. The birth of a spiritual tradition, the Book of the Dead, did not spring forth fully formed. Its roots reach deep into the earliest strata of Egyptian religious thought. In the Old Kingdom, more than 4,000 years ago, pharaohs commissioned the first great funerary texts, the pyramid texts. These incantations, carved into the stone walls of royal tombs, were reserved for the king alone. Their purpose was singular and profound, to ensure the pharaoh's transformation into a god and his safe passage to the afterlife. As centuries passed, the privilege of an afterlife began to trickle down the social hierarchy. By the Middle Kingdom, the coffin texts appeared, inscribed not on stone but on the wooden coffins of nobles and high officials. These texts expanded the afterlife's promise, offering spells and protections to a broader elite. The democratization of eternity had begun. It was in the New Kingdom, around 1550 BCE, that the Book of the Dead emerged as a distinct and dynamic tradition. No longer confined to royalty or the elite, these spells could be purchased, customized, and placed in the tombs of anyone who could afford them. The afterlife, once the exclusive domain of kings, was now open to all. This marked a profound shift in the Egyptian worldview. Living text. Compilation and customization, the Book of the Dead was not a single fixed book, but a living anthology. Over 200 spells, prayers, and incantations were available, each with a specific purpose. They were meant to protect the deceased from demons, provide sustenance, transform the soul into a bird or a lotus, open doors in the underworld, and, most crucially, secure a favorable judgment before the gods. These texts were painstakingly copied onto papyrus scrolls by skilled scribes, often priests who worked in bustling workshops near the great temples. The scrolls varied enormously in length and quality. Some were lavishly illustrated, their margins filled with scenes of gods and monsters. Others were simple, their spells rendered in neat, unadorned script. The choice depended on the wealth and status of the deceased and on the devotion of their family. Each Book of the Dead was unique. The spells were selected and arranged according to the needs and fears of the individual. Some scrolls bore the name of the deceased, written in red ink for magical potency. Others included personal prayers or even blank spaces to be filled in later. In this way, the Book of the Dead was both a product and a reflection of the society that created it. It was a mirror of Egyptian hopes, anxieties, and aspirations. To understand the Book of the Dead, we must enter the Egyptian mind, a mind preoccupied, above all, with the fate of the soul. The Egyptians believed that the human being was composed of several distinct elements: the Ka, the Ba, the Ak, the Ag, and the Shoit. At death, these elements were separated, and only through proper ritual and magical knowledge could they be reunited and preserved. The afterlife itself was a perilous realm, known as the Duat. It was a landscape of rivers and mountains, gates and guardians, monsters and gods. The soul had to navigate this treacherous terrain, overcoming obstacles and answering riddles. The Book of the Dead was its map and compass, its arsenal and shield. Central to this journey was the judgment before Osiris, the lord of the underworld. In the Hall of Mat, the heart of the deceased was weighed against the feather of truth. If the heart was light, free from sin and falsehood, the soul was admitted to the field of reeds, a paradise of abundance and joy. If not, it was devoured by Ammit, the fearsome soul eater, and consigned to oblivion. The Book of the Dead provided the spells and declarations needed to pass this test. The most famous of these is spell 125, the negative confession. in which the deceased proclaims their innocence of 42 sins. I have not stolen. I have not killed. I have not lied. These were not mere words, but magical utterances that bound the gods to accept the soul's purity. The Pantheon and the Cosmic Order. The Book of the Dead is a window into the Egyptian cosmos, a world governed by gods, spirits, and the unyielding principle of Maat. Maat was more than a goddess. She was the embodiment of truth, justice, and cosmic order. Her feather was the standard by which all hearts were judged. The text is populated by a dazzling array of deities. Osiris, the green-skinned king of the dead. Anubis, the jackal-headed guide and embalmer. Thoth, the ibis-headed scribe who records the verdict. Ra, the sun god who journeys through the underworld each night. Each god played a role in the soul's journey, offering protection, guidance, or judgment. The Book of the Dead is also a work of art. Its pages are filled with vivid illustrations, scenes of the deceased standing before Osiris, of the heart being weighed, of monstrous guardians and magical boats. These images were not mere decoration. They were believed to activate the spells and make the journey real and effective. Society shaped by death to the ancient Egyptians. Death was not an end, but a transformation, a passage to a new and eternal existence. The Book of the Dead was both a practical manual and a spiritual manifesto, a testament to their faith in the power of words, images, and ritual. Its very existence tells us much about Egyptian society. The production of a Book of the Dead was a major investment, a sign of wealth and piety. Scribes and artists labored for weeks or months to create a single scroll. Families saved for years to commission one for a loved one. The text was recited at funerals, placed in tombs, and cherished as a guarantee of immortality. Yet, as the centuries passed, the Book of the Dead became more accessible. By the late period, even those of modest means could hope to possess a copy, even if it was only a brief and unadorned one. The promise of the afterlife was no longer the privilege of kings, but the birthright of all Egyptians. Epilogue. The scroll endures today. The Book of the Dead survives in hundreds of fragments and scrolls, preserved by Egypt's dry climate and the reverence of its people. The most famous is the Papyrus of Ani, a masterpiece of calligraphy and illustration now housed in the British Museum. Through these ancient texts, we glimpse a civilization obsessed with death, yet profoundly optimistic about what lay beyond. In the next part of our journey, we will open the scroll itself, deciphering its spells, exploring its stories, and following the soul as it braves the perils of the Duat. The Book of the Dead is not merely a relic. It is a living document and a testament to the enduring power of faith, imagination, and the written word. End of Part 1. Part 2 will delve into the content, spells, and symbolism of the Book of the Dead, guiding the reader through its narratives and mysteries. This video is for informational and entertainment purposes only. The views expressed are solely those of the creator and do not represent any affiliated organizations. Nothing in this video should be taken as professional advice. Viewers are responsible for their own actions. Use your own judgment and verify information independently.